demonstrate how to calculate the angle of the noon sun. And although this is laid out in the lab manual that I've gotten to you guys, sometimes it's helpful to see it actually being done. There is an equation for the angle of the noon sun. And the equation for the angle of the noon sun, the ANS, is equal to 90 minus the arc distance. Okay, so here is the big question, right? So what we need to do is figure out first what this arc distance is all about, and then we need to figure out, then we can throw it in and plug and chug, right? So what is that arc distance? The arc distance is the angular difference, or the arc distance. So the degrees of latitude between two spots, right? It's between the latitude of interest and the location of the sun's declination, or the latitude of the subsolar point where the sun is striking. So we're going to say that it is the declination, or sometimes I will say it's the latitude of the subsolar point. Okay, how do we get this stuff, right? So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we figure out our latitude of interest, right? This is going to be the latitude of whatever the location is. And for that, we will ask Google. All right. And the declination, this guy we get from the wonderful instrument of the analemma. The analemma is going to tell us where the subsolar point is. So let's set up our problem for what we're going to be looking at, right? So my birthday is September 20th. That's the date. And if I could go anywhere for my birthday, I think where I would go would be Banff in Alberta, Canada. It's a cute little town tucked into the Canadian Rockies. Banff in Canada. Good. All right. Well, I need to figure out then, in order to get my arc distance, that's my goal, right, is to get back to here. In order to get that, I got to figure out the latitude for these two different guys. The latitude of interest, that would be for Banff. So we ask Google.
Google, tell me the latitude of Banff, Canada. And Canada is at 51 degrees north.
Thank you. Okay, so Banff, Canada is at 51 degrees north. Perfect. And analemma. Analemma. Well, there you are, analemma. What is the latitude of the subsolar point on September 20th? Well, look, it's right there in the middle. And it looks like... Gosh, it looks like it's going to be like right in between there, right? So it's not quite at 1 and it's not quite up to 2 yet. It's going to be about 1.5, and that's going to be in the north because the equator's right there. So this guy is going to be 1.5 degrees north. Okay, so I need to figure out the arc distance between these two guys. Let's draw a picture. So I always like to draw these guys out. I'm going to put that at 0 degrees, and it's really like a number line, right? It's going to be going one direction, and it's going to be going the other direction, right? So here's what I am looking for. I'm wanting to figure out the difference between these two guys. So I'm going to be putting in the big one, and that's all the way up here, and that's where Banff is. That's where I would go if I could, and that's at 51 degrees north. Okay. And then the subsolar point is actually going to be just above the equator. That's going to be at 1.5 degrees north. Okay. These guys are both in the same hemisphere. So we subtract to get those values. All right, so, and it's always a positive number. So really what I'm doing is I'm taking that whole guy and I'm like blocking that part out. Okay, because the arc distance or the degrees of latitude that I care about is in between here and here. And so I'm going to go 51.0 minus 1.5. And then, oh my goodness, all this borrowing I'm going to need to do. That will be 0, and that will be 10, and so that will be 5 and 5, 4, and that will be 10, and that will be 9, and that will be 49. The arc distance is 49, okay? 0.5, okay? So my angle of the noon sun is equal to 90 minus the arc distance. Cool. Well, what's the arc distance? My arc distance was just calculated to be the angle of the noon sun is equal to 90 minus 49.5. And you might be doing the math in your head, which is cool, but if I tried to, then I would just embarrass myself. So I'm going to go 90 minus 49.5 equals 40.5. Okay, what does it mean? Okay, well, here's what it means, right? So if I am there in Banff and I am standing on the ground there in Banff, okay, the sun on my birthday, right, September 20th, in Banff. Okay, the sun at noon, sure, the sun's going to rise in just the way that it always does. But at noon, is it going to be at the equator? Is it going to be at 0, right? If we could just draw a gigantic protractor around me, right? It's not going to be at 0. It's not going to be all the way up here at 90 degrees. It's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40.5 degrees. Well, halfway would be 45, so we'll say right out there. The sun is going to be 40.5 degrees off the horizon at noon.